Hmm.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, John. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
There I
There we
am.
go.
Okay. And this, again, to get everybody in, if I go over to that view, that does it. Hi, Fred.
Hey, Fred.
Hi, John.
Well, welcome back, you two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's that tan, Bruce?
Lots of sunshine.
Yeah, no, I've been working on my paleness.
Yeah, I'm getting, just getting back into the swing of things here.
Uh-huh.
And I did our burn today. Every year I try to
Oh.
get up. We have so much
Mm-hmm.
clippings, etc., to get in.
Yeah, I haul it to the transfer station.
You do that? I used to, but I don't have I used to use my friend's truck, and
Yeah,
it took me all day.
yeah,
Do it back and forth because we just have so many clippings.
yeah. I take small amounts at a time and put it in the back of my CRV.
Oh, so you do it over the course of?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going out that way, so for other reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea, Fred. Do that.
So, Bruce, I sort of screwed up the agenda, not terribly. But I didn't put Fred. Fred, you wanted to talk about the CPC at length.
Well, yeah.
You can just put that in the CPC.
Oh, no, I know that.
I can bring it up at CPC.
Right.
Okay.
I think we can do it there.
Yeah.
But I was reading through the agenda. I said, I know I made that change, and I think I saved it to the wrong file somewhere in my computer.
Well, very appreciated all you've been doing, John, with the and the planning board. I was literally on the road.
No,
that meeting was.
They were very happy to be done with it. It was like I started talking, said basically, you shut up. We're take a vote.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's just, it isn't, I mean, I think that, the planning board has had some issues around access that are, real issues, and we have to, but beyond that, getting these marshlands in, it's just, the problem is not getting the okay from everybody. It's so difficult to make it through the steps. You send it out to committees. I was at the NRAB and they supported us unanimously. And Rebecca never got their information. So it's like, anyway, it's been difficult, but we got it anyway. We've gotten through the planning board. I'm going to have Conscom just because they changed that. They won't with this, but just another meeting with them, just to, which will be the same thing, Here it is.
Oh.
Did you guys have a good time, Fred?
Oh yeah.
A lot of birding?
A lot of birding, out every day.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Didn't have too many days it looked like today here.
That's the difference. I have to say, with Florida, the birding was really, I mean, I noticed Audubon was talking about the white ibis, and white ibises in Florida like pigeons, what I mean?
Yeah, right.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
They're beautiful birds. I don't mean that, but a lot of the things that night herons, both black and yellow, that you don't see very many, and et cetera. So
how far did you explore in Florida? How far south and how far east? from where you are.
Not that, what the only thing we did was we went up to Crystal River. And I actually used to live in Orlando, okay, it wasn't that far, but we never, with all the time we lived there, back in the 80s, we never saw the manatees. Now, we have seen manatees kayaking, but we went on a kayaking trip where you get out and swim with the manatees.
Oh,
Wow, yeah.
So that was sort of fun,
Yeah.
so that was up Crystal River. But otherwise, we went down to Fort DeSoto. And I pretty much, the extent of my bike ride is how far we went.
yeah.
There's a lot of great bike paths down there.
Well, there's lots of interesting places down there to explore for birds.
Everybody, you guys are getting in okay, right? Because I just said, or do I have to?
See Peggy.
No, I'm
Yep,
letting
I'm here.
people in. I think I was here first, so there we go.
John's in charge, huh?
Hardly.
And it's been very helpful with all that, I'll tell you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Danny.
Hi,
Hi.
Danny.
There I am.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
We can see you too, but we can't see or hear Lynn.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
now we
We can hear
can.
ya.
We figure out what's going on here.
You got it.
Hi, Lynn. We can see it from your nose up.
Okay, I'll try to.
There you
handle
go.
it.
There you go.
Hi, everyone. So. Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Liz.
It's Lynn, actually.
No, Liz just joined too, and there's Tom. So
Hi.
everybody's here.
Hi.
I can't.
Sorry, I'm late. It's the end of my fiscal year at work, so it's been a little nutty.
Well, thanks for coming with all that.
And
Yeah.
in Vail, it's been 2 powder days in a row, so nothing gets done on powder days ever. It doesn't matter who you are. So here I am waiting in New England, and they're all out doing their things.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And Liz, that's where your company is headquartered, is in Vail?
Yes, I work in Vail every day. Yeah.
And a lot of snow out there this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a pretty good year so far, and it keeps coming. Like they just had 11 more inches over the weekend. So even my
Crazy.
sister-in-law is she lives in Colorado Springs, and they're trying to replace their deck. So they have it down, and they're like, great, so we're gonna go out and use our deck. I mean, it was 70 degrees in Denver on Saturday. It was beautiful, and they're gonna go sit on their deck, and it snows.
Excuse me 1 second, I apologize. Hi, Gary. Okay. Okay, I was going to be out, but we'll just leave the door open. Right. Okay, and you can get it because you know where the problem is. It's right there. Great. Thanks a lot, Gary. Sorry, guys, but that was a plumbing problem. I had to, we got the plumber coming tomorrow, so
Oh, that's great. That's a
Yeah.
miracle right there. Getting a
I had
plumber.
to get it.
Do you have a good plumber?
Yeah, we actually have a guy who we like.
And he comes?
Yeah, and he, you have to pester him sometimes, but he's coming tomorrow. That was why I took the call.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start the meeting. No public input, I assume. Corrections to the agenda?
I have 2. Tom wants to start a discussion around the sale of Maurice's and the impact on open space. And Fred, you had some additional discussion you wanted to have around CPC.
Right.
Okay, with those two additions, anything else? Okay, vote to accept.
So moved.
Second.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposed? Okay, now for the, I'm just getting back in the swing of things after a long ride back up. We met in February, not in March. I didn't see the February notes though. Do we have those or were?
Yes, I sent them out yesterday and I've sent them
Oh,
out twice previously, but I figured people might not have remembered them from last month.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't see them. Okay.
Did people get them?
I
Yes.
have it.
I haven't.
Okay.
I did.
Did you, Lynn?
Yes. Yesterday, whenever you sent it.
Yeah. At least I thought I did, but
You did send.
yes, on Monday at 4:32, copy of the minutes.
Oh,
Yep.
they haven't come to me yet.
Yeah, me either.
Was it limited in the?
Yeah. Yeah, I just replied all to John's email about adding Maurice's to the discussion.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, it's going to be hard to discuss them if people, I can resend them, but.
Yeah, why don't we just do that and, right, because I'm sure they're fine because they always are. But, if we haven't read them, we should probably just hold off and we'll vote for them next time.
Next time, okay.
That would be my suggestion. Okay. Let me just get back in. I have my printer's not working, so I have the agenda on my iPad. Okay, Chair, I guess the thing I want to say is to thank John for doing a whole bunch of things, doing the agenda so that we had that done for today, going to the planning board, which as people know was a hang up with our article last year. And John kindly went to the planning board and we got approval, very quick, unanimous approval there. So we are good to go.
Nice.
And these are the two properties, just to remind people, 3186 and 42137. They're both Marsh properties. I'll hold off. Well, the only other thing I was thinking, and this really is looking at new properties down the bottom, but I think I'll mention it out front, is there are a couple of different, in fact, there are 4 properties that we had mentioned before, and I think it's worth a visit out to these properties. One of them is on Payne Hollow Road, 500, I think it's 500 and 440, but I'll double check it. And the other 2 are out on Bond Street, and the Conservation Trust has one property that already, and is going to get a second property in 2023. I'm bringing this up now, but not because there's any urgency to either of these properties, but this is 3 years to get 2 Marsh properties, in. And so just to put that out front, and if we get a visit and see what people think. We don't have to take a vote on it, but that's it for me. Anything, Tom, Vice Chair? Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's still written.
I believe
John.
I'll let John see if he has anything.
Yeah, I
Can I
guess
say
that's a
something?
switch too. I thought you were official, John.
I don't know that it got voted on.
Oh, well, that's easy. Well, John has agreed to be the vice chair. Move to accept.
So moved.
So move.
One second.
I
All in
second.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes, but wasn't the question whether he has to be approved by the select board? Was that?
That was the
It shouldn't
question,
be.
but the answer was no, I think.
Mm-mm.
So we had the power the whole time.
You had the power.
We have the power.
Woo!
Well, thank you all very much.
Mm.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
And
Just-
anything to report,
Bruce?
John?
Bruce,
Yeah,
can you hear me?
I can.
The properties on Bond Street, are those town-owned properties or are they private properties?
Town owned.
Okay,
So there's two properties, you know the two that you're getting, Danny.
Yep.
Just on, I think it's the other side of that, are contingent to your properties, are two small town properties. Not, I
Okay.
mean, third of an acre, half an acre. I mean, they're not teeny, but they're not big ones.
Yep.
But as long as you guys are getting those other two anyway, I thought makes all the sense in the world just to try to protect those other properties. And that's going through the 2023, right? The second one.
it'll be closed right at the very end of 2022.
Oh,
Bruce, you don't have those lot numbers by any chance, do you? I mean, we can look it up.
yeah. I mean, if we want to go visit, I'll put them in.
Okay.
Let me just see if I have them in here.
Map 29 and 36.
288.
Okay.
289.
So it's mapped, the ones over by Payne Hollow are map 29, 400 and 505.
Right.
And the other maps of Bond Street are map 36, parcels 288 and 289.
Right.
Okay.
What
That
map?
was map 36.
Correct.
If they're on the agenda, the second bullet under properties for consideration.
Correct.
Oh,
So I could have waited.
yes.
Okay. So moving on, Conservation Trust. Just the fundraising is going on for the property over on by the Herring River. Anything else to
Yeah,
talk about with that, Danny?
I don't mind sharing. Number one, thanks for those of you who have made some contributions. The fundraising is going well. We've got probably another month that we can do this and still use the money. But we did get a notice, or unofficial notice, that we got the state grant award of $85,000. So
Oh, good.
Yay.
yeah, that's not for public awareness yet, because we don't want to get the word out too far in front of the Secretary of State. So she decides to put out her announcement, which I imagine will be in the next week or so. Then-
Danny, when do you think it will be? Shall I keep not included in the minutes, which wouldn't be publicly aired for another month?
I'd leave it out. It's
Okay.
not germane to your business, so to speak, other than people being very good supporters. So, Bruce, the other thing I wanted to mention was signs.
Oh, yes.
And I'll just start off. We've had some questions about signs, and I know Conscom has done some signs over the years, and I've helped them with it. But I'd really like to see a consistent sign available on all of these trails. And their rules is what they are. And it's always tough to get people to agree on what the rules are, and whether they should be cast in the positive or in the negative. And there are some things that just can't help but be positive, and some things have to be negative, like no fires. And so we're starting to work on that, and I'll include somebody from your group, or probably you, for consideration of these as we go along.
Yeah.
We would imagine that we need Conscom approval too. They have never particularly cared what we do, we being Conservation Trust. So, but I think just as a formality, they should be aware. So,
Yeah. And some of the properties that, that are by the trail, or the trails go through entirely, our town properties that are under their jurisdiction. So it makes sense for them to be involved in it.
and some of them are entirely ours. So,
Right.
So
Mm.
anyhow, I know you guys are active, and so would appreciate your input.
Sure. Yeah.
The only other thing is we have announced our annual meeting being August 17th at the Tequesset Club at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on the back deck out there. And so we're starting to put the details together on that. And well, I guess that's, I mean, we talked about Adopt a Highway. We've had our Earth Day signs out. We are going to pursue an AmeriCorps individual placement next year. We did not have one this year. It's a lot of work, but we missed having somebody. And we're going to have the same person that is available to the health and conservation people. So we'll have one person who's there, sometimes working on town issues, and sometimes working on WCT issues. Let's see. So I guess that's it for now.
Okay. So the only other, as long as we're bringing it up, the with Meredith and the AmeriCorps member whose name I forget right now, but
Audrey.
yeah, Audrey, and they were going to work on the booklets, our booklets, and I'm not sure how far they've gotten. I'm, like I say, I'm literally just back from a log trip up and getting my sea legs here, but I will check with them and see what's happening, because it's an opportunity really to get some work done. She seemed very interested. Audrey seemed interested in doing it, and but I have obviously not been around to pester her, etc.
Bruce,
Yeah.
I can tell you that I've walked High Toss a number of times since I got back. And I noticed that they have taken the old TV that was thrown down. They've removed that, and the tires that were back in the woods are gone. So they're
Wow.
working on those things. So
Good.
Yeah, that was Meredith working on an AmeriCorps work day.
Yeah.
And she told me about it. She also did some other things out on Hamlin Island, especially, where they took down the stack of wood and all that. That was kind of teepee. And they also took out a lot of the old fencing that had been thrown over the side. So
Yeah,
they got a good work day done.
right. Yeah, those were ones that Fred and I showed them that we thought were sort of the most obvious and highest priority to get through. That teepee is as great as it was. They actually did a good job with it, but it's a liability. It was a lawsuit waiting to happen, I'll tell you. So anyway, that's terrific.
There may yet be another work day with AmeriCorps that we'll try to organize.
Great.
Because there's lots of little work to be done.
Yeah. I'm up for it. Again, I've not been around. And I do apologize. I skipped ahead to the liaison reports, standing assignments. Anything else with property management, Fred?
no, that's all I had.
Okay. The trail guides, Lynn?
I mentioned in the earlier meeting that we wanted to reprint the sleeves. I think, Denny, you call them trail packets. If you know,
Whatever they are.
call the trails. And we're moving forward a little bit on that. I've spoken to Thompson's. They seem really, really busy, so that might mean that delays. He's looking to see what stock they can get. That's a problem as well. Was used all the stock stock we're using. So there are a few, and they're very busy because everyone waited until the end of COVID to have funerals and everything else that they need to print for. So we'll see, but Denny and I at least have talked and know what, you know, the newer map is important and looks good. And the write-up seems good, a couple of changes, but not much, but we've agreed we should order much less in future because it's a moving target sometimes. Do you have anything to say, Denny?
Nope, that's it.
Yeah, I thought it looked great, you know, looking at the changes and map.
We'll try to get a different color of paper for the outside, just so you can easily distinguish between old and new. Otherwise, you'd have to go in and count the trails and all that sort of stuff. So.
Right. Are we going to use up? There's a lot of old ones left. Did I read that right?
Yes.
So we're going to use up those or no?
No, there's
No. So also the color that we have is discontinued. So that's another reason to choose
Something
different. And, you know, Matt Thompson said he can't really see what would be lighter than the green we've got, but maybe it could be a different color.
Sure.
Yeah.
A beige or
Blue or something.
a natural blue. He said the earth colors are easier to get the stock apparently. So we can talk about that. Does anyone feel strongly about that or color wise?
I see. The description of earth color is fine by me.
right.
Yeah.
It sounds like there may be some limitations just because of what they can get, but I'm
Exactly.
certainly easy.
Okay.
Okay. Community outreach, Peggy?
Yes, we've been in contact with Mary Beth at Wellfleet Elementary School. Because of snow days, they're extending the school year till the end of June.
Yep.
So yeah, Liz is shaking her head. Yeah. So as a result, and she had originally said that the best timing for doing any of our collaborative activities would be April, May, but now she's saying they're quite busy and June looks like the best time. So I have been talking with Bob Jackson, who is still interested in having a finger or a foot in this, and I'm very appreciative of that. And so we'll be talking to see what's available because you know, we're no longer in a pandemic situation, as we know. COVID doesn't exist anymore. They do now, yeah, sure. They do now allow classroom visits with masking and maintaining I think she said, a 3-foot distance from students. So our hope will be that we can have some in-class opportunities with the students. And then also, I think she would like each of the grades to have an outdoor opportunity. And if I'm not mistaken, Denny, in the past, you've been involved and you said that you'd be willing if we can identify some opportunities going forward. So,
yeah, I'd like you guys to be promoters of WCT.
okay. All right. Well, we'll see if we can make that work.
We'll be happy to work for it. So
Great. Thank you.
We're all working for the same ends here.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, Friends of the Herring Riverland, anything?
Well, lots happened since our February meeting. On April 14th, the Wellfleet and Truro Conservation Commissions held a joint public NOI hearing. It went well, as was expected, and it's to be continued. So Wellfleet and Truro Conservation Commissions will now meet separately to discuss. And over 50
and
letters
vote.
of support. Pardon, Denny?
And the commissions will vote too.
Right.
That was part of the reason they separated the two.
Right. And there were over 50 letters of support for the project. They say to stay tuned still. They're expecting some good news about funding very soon. They've been saying that for a while, but they are expecting it. As far as outreach goes, they're again this year calling for poems inspired by the river to be submitted for publishing in future newsletters. There's a blurb about it on the Wellfleet Library events site to see and who to send the poems to. Please spread the word. And then May is Celebrate Herring River Month, and quite a few things are being planned. The last day of April, Bob Prescott is leading a walk along Jaquesset looking for lingering winter birds and resident birds and early spring birds. And to register, you need to go to the Friends of Herring River website. And then from May 3rd through May 31st, there's an art show at Preservation Hall, again with a theme, Many Views, Restoring Our Marsh. May 5th, this person, Anawan Whedon, she's a Mashpee, she's a member of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, and she'll be talking at Preservation Hall about the crucial link between indigenous culture and the fish that sustain them. So that's, I don't know if you can see this, but it's
Nice.
I'll forward it to everyone. That's May 5th. May 7th, John Portnoy is leading a short walk to the dike, and we'll discuss the river's history and plans for tidal restoration. And reservations, again, can be made on the website. I think there's a limit. And then the other thing, May 21st is World Fish Migration Day. And, celebration is being planned at Gull Pond with Barbara Brennesol, and I don't recall who else, but again, it'll be talking about the herring run and other subjects around.
Okay.
It sounds like it's going to be interesting though. So I think that's all.
I guess the only thing I'd say, Danny, as I'm thinking about this is you were talking about wanting to know if people are using the Conscom properties. These are certainly friends, et cetera, but you know, I don't know where Bob's going, but is that the kind of thing that?
Bob is walking along Jaquesset Neck Road.
A chick is just on the road.
I think from the parking area at Great Island down to the dike.
Okay.
Just a short walk. So you were thinking?
No, that doesn't matter. We'll move on. Okay, the housing partnership, John?
So they're working on a number of projects, including another fundraiser this summer, and putting up a website and a number of other activities. I think the big news is, and what's going to take their energy, is Maurice's and sort of helping to shepherd that purchase. I think they have P&S done, and I'm going to join them on a tour of Maurice's on Friday at 11. So, and I know, Tom, you had, I think, some questions around that, or you wanted to have?
Well, I thought I was not too clear on how this all came up in the first place, but I think the information sheet that you handed out, or you sent out yesterday, or was very helpful. And I guess the question that comes to everyone's mind is 6.5 million and from the town of Wellfleet in our current financial status. What? And, I think it's obvious that the housing need is tremendous. The only question I would have is there some avenue perhaps for preservation of some of that property for open space, like perhaps along the bike corridor, or and I wouldn't want to interject anything that would cause an issue with going ahead with the property, but that was, I guess, where I was coming from on that. But I think that fact sheet was helpful.
My thoughts on that is this is going to take 6 years to pull together. And it's just a long planning process. And I think it's a very good idea to start staking out what a buffer zone between the development and the bike path and Marconi would look like, and at least be at the table for that discussion.
I also think, and Fred will talk about it more, but it may fit in. We're looking for what to do with our CPC funds. The only couple of projects that could occur, that may not even work, or some access issues getting easements, and that we're talking 25,000, even less with one of them. Our CPC money, it's real tricky because how this gets settled, you get 6 years to do it, but this is an opportunity. If it's decided that we get some open space, it's one of the ways in which we could fund some of the property. I don't know quite, if they go to the town and say it's 6.5 or whatever it was, can you after the fact do this? Is this something that, I don't think they're not talking about open space. So how do we offer that? If people hear what I'm saying, but I think it's an opportunity to help the town get some of the housing in addition to using our CPC funds. I personally think we should at least consider that. So.
I think one of the main thing is we have to make clear that we'd like to be kept in the loop during this planning process.
Right.
I think one of the things in the fact sheet that I found very interesting and also assuring was that the rental income will be coming to the town for the next 6 years. So that was, as Tom said, when you first heard about $6.5 million being voted on for the town to spend, I did wonder where we were getting the money for, but it seems like a very well thought out plan with the rental income helping to offset.
Right. They're going to have to put a bond out there. And it was my understanding from the discussion, I only came in at the tail end, that they're trying to schedule the bond in such a way that it will put off some of the costs later in the first year. But I think one of the important things to keep in mind is the structure of the bond and the financials and how that money is going to flow. I think part of what we need to do is make it less intimidating if we can. But it'll be an interesting discussion.
Well, as I mentioned to Kathleen Nagel, who received very nice recognition for her role in this.
Mhm.
With NIMBY being an issue in so many instances where we're trying to identify affordable housing opportunities, it seems to me that any abutters, I would think, would be happier having full-time residents living next door rather than people who live in trailers and tents. But that's just my
Well,
my speculation.
as somebody who abuts affordable housing, which I do, we never see or hear anything. And there's 14 units over there with families and kids and everything. And I mean, I'm looking right at a bunch of, like right here, and there's nothing. I mean, I don't know what people think is, I mean, they think it's going to turn into 21 acres of a crack den or something. I mean, because it's not that. I mean, these are people with families. They're like, I've lived in neighborhoods, like full neighborhoods that are way worse than anything that ever happens over there. I mean, honestly, the only issue is, the trash guy comes at 5 o'clock in the morning, but it's worse for them than it is for us. So it's like, no, but it's fine. It shouldn't be like not in my backyard for anybody. I mean, it's housing, it's opportunities, it's for people to live here. And not just restaurant workers, but I mean, the Provincetown school superintendent is leaving because she doesn't have a place to live. Are you kidding? Like,
Yeah.
that's nuts. I mean, people, I think, forget that it's first responders, it's teachers, it's the superintendents, it's everybody. It's not some like weird, like, I don't know what people think it is, but I don't know, maybe that it needs to be, maybe that's part of the pitch. It's like teachers.
It's some weird psychology. I mean, you should hear the discussion that goes on about habitat homes. I mean, those people are so carefully screened. I mean, they're not gonna put a junkie den in there, for God's sake. But every time they build one, they have to go through all kinds of neighborhood. Oh, the water is going to be this, and they're going to do that. I don't know. Anyway.
So can I ask a question about who we would be dealing with if we approach about open space contributing towards a buffer? Would it be the Affordable Housing Trust, what the part of the town, and talk to them about the fact that, I mean, because they, given what's happened at Lawrence Road, I think they would probably realize they need to have some kind of buffer along the bike path planning process, and to have the possibility that it could be paid for out of our CPC money, I would think would be welcome.
Yeah, I'm sure that, well, I don't know, sure, but what happened in tea time in Eastham was that there was a committee that was formed of a lot of different people with different interests. And my assumption is that that's something that would happen with this as well. And
what would happen, Bruce? I didn't follow what you said.
What they did was what Eastham did is put together a committee, and Karen Strauss, people who at Audubon know, was the head of the committee, and they had different players, people from different committees in town with different interests, talking together about what to do with the property, and then came up with a plan. I'd be very surprised if that wasn't something that happens with this property. It's a big piece of property. Have a long time to do a plan around it, and so anyway, what we need to do is let it be known that we would like to be part of that process. And I think certainly you can do it with the partnership, but we could also do it with the Board of Selectmen, because I think
I wasn't thinking the partnership. I was thinking the housing trust, the part that's part of town.
That's what
Elaine McElroy is part of, and
right,
because they've always been, I think, very cooperative with us.
right.
There's a similar model going on in Truro too, with the
Right.
big acres that the town bought. And there's a committee of many different interests involved.
And I think what we can do as a start is just to let both, the Housing Authority and the Board of Selectmen know that we're interested in having of some kind of a voice in this as it moves along. Anybody else, any ideas? It's gonna be a long process. All right.
John, I didn't get who you met with on the project.
I there was a combined meeting on the same evening as the planning board with the trust and the partnership. And I literally got in there for the last 10 minutes.
Okay.
So what I can do is just write up a letter and I'll pass it by people, see what you think, but just that says we're interested in this and depending upon the process, would like to be a part of the decision making, something to that effect. But I'll write it up and send it out to people and you can see what you think.
Great.
Thank you.
CPC, Fred?
Yes. Well, the CPC hasn't met since early January, but at that meeting, they apparently had decided sometime in the past that they'd like to do something different with the needs lists, and they present these annually, I guess, to the select board. But they wanted to do it this time to so that one area of CPC could make a presentation, a short presentation about their needs in particular, as opposed to listening to all the needs at the select board meeting. So they asked me if I would do one for conservation, open space this time. I think the reasoning was that we now finally have some money, a little money in the reserve for open space. So I'm to give a presentation of about 5 minutes on our needs. And so what I'm asking from you all is, which needs should I talk about? And my view was one area is we want to make, we'd like to make connections between open space, protected conservation areas, recreation areas, so that people can go from one to another by foot rather than have to get in their car and drive from one to another as much as possible. John Cumler talked about this some time ago. He would like to be able from people from North Wellfleet, if they so choose, walk all the way down to South Wellfleet on trails, not have to go out on public roads. So I think that's something that we could say is a need. We'd like to be able to connect open spaces, not only for people to walk, for recreation, but for wildlife corridors. So that was one area that I thought of. The other is with climate change. I think we should think about salt marshes and what happens when the salt marsh, when the water levels rise and the upper marsh gets squeezed out. Where does it migrate? That was one of the reasons that hard walls were no longer appropriate. So that's another thing we could talk about, but I want to hear your ideas.
So, Fred, they're not asking for us to talk about a specific project that we might have on the list, but a general statement of needs that we see in the community.
If we had a specific project, yeah, sure, that would be obvious to talk about. But I don't think we have a specific one. If we do, I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, well, I really like both of your ideas. I know on the 5-year plan committee, we've talked a bit about the linking properties with walking paths or with other properties by obtaining other properties. But climate change is, of course, a huge concern as well. So both of those seem very appropriate.
So restoration of marshes is up there.
I think, Lynn, if I'm not mistaken, what we might talk about is if you have too much building in the upland, then there's no place for the marshes to migrate.
Right.
So we would want to protect as much of the marshland property along the marshes so that if the marshes migrate, they have a place to go.
And to protect the marshes, you know, the properties that we're looking at now and the ones that we're talking about are all lowland, and at least have some lowlands, and they're all contiguous with bodies of water. And I think, you know, I really think it's just critical. I mean, people, you argue about open space, and Denny's a private agency. People can come to him and say, I want to save some space. That's fine. For the town to support this, I think you really want to say, listen, this is not adding another acre here, because this is really what we need to do to help save the town in the face of, you know, the seawater rise and these changes. I mean, I think that's absolutely central to what our mission should be. I think that the joining things together, President, there's a lot of us, somebody who does a lot of hiking with different hiking groups, et cetera. There are a lot of ways, there's a lot of trails out there. But I don't, that's fine. I think it's a real reasonable thing to look together. I think that the access, the things that we're talking about, one of them is over in Lieutenant Island and would allow for, you know, access not only to shell fishermen, but for us. The other one over by, no, it's off Cove, it's off Cove Road anyway, I forget, it's right over there. But that again would allow for people to walk down, to connect with the property, the Conscom, the WCT property and other areas around to walk. So I think those are both good.
And linking, I think, is possible in some areas at least. I've walked from my house into town along Uncle Tim's Bridge without having to cross onto Route 6. But it was a lot of negotiating and moving around. But, you know, if there were more places you could go through, rights of way and stuff, it would be great. And when I was talking about restoration of the marshes, besides the protection where there's buildings, wherever we've got dikes, like Blackfish Creek and so on,
right.
With water level rise, you want those marshes that have become shrunken because they're not getting the tidal flow to build up again to help. So it's a little different from just the edges where there are buildings.
Right. Right, and that's something that NRAB is looking at, you know, the
right.
Both fresh,
but there could be properties that open space could look at that would ease that situation.
Yeah, I don't think there's much actually, but you know, it's certainly
Well,
something.
every now and again, a property comes on the market that is one less worry for Herring River or something. So,
I think the point is really well taken, Lynn, with that. Denny?
How much money is dedicated to open space on an annual basis now?
10% guaranteed. We can certainly get more than that, but we have 10% of the CPC funds come to us.
How much is that in dollars?
We have, and the last time that we got them, you remember, Fred, 170,000, something like that at this point?
We have now in reserve a little over 73,000.
Oh, 73,000. Maybe I was thinking of the end of this year.
What would your annual take be under that?
Well, use that figure. Some years it might be a little less or
So it's $70,000 a year?
something like that.
Does it roll over each year or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it is now 73. That's what our allotment was this year. I don't think, I thought from Bob's report that it had been all paid off as of last year. So
Right.
this,
That makes a difference.
this was the amount for this year.
right. So all of the land-based properties have been paid off, and whatever we get, and we certainly can get more than that if we had, but minimally we can, 10% we have.
So it's not a use it or lose it situation.
No,
It isn't, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious because WCT could be an applicant too.
I'm sorry, Danny, could be,
An applicant for some of those projects.
fine by me.
No,
If we
I'm
can-
just saying.
If we can say, in fact, Danny, what I would like to see happen, but we're by ourselves, I think it's real hard, is you and John know, that property over on, just right across the street from John, like, how could anyone build there? Well, what's going on? And, it's just crazy what's happening now with things. And it's very hard to speak personally, and other people may not feel the same, but it's very hard to go for $1 million property, for that's less than an acre, et cetera, and sell that to the town, 20 acres for 6 million, when there's a lot of housing you're going to do is great, but it's a problem. So I think we need to work with WCT. If there's some way we can be involved with that, that would be ideal from my perspective.
Well, that's where the Pilgrim Springs came from, was a joint project.
Right.
And we put a lot of money in there too, along with the town.
Right.
For instance, Whalebone Point, I think the purchase price on that was $550. The state gave a couple $100,000 and they got a CR, and the town came up with everything but $150,000, which we put in there, and we didn't get anything. And that doesn't bother me because the land is preserved.
Right.
But it's a joint project, and we can magnify what you have.
Right. Absolutely. No, I think that's the way for things to happen. The only way we're going to come up with those kind of properties, is to work together, I think, with this. And and just speaking for myself, I don't care, as long as the land is preserved, I frankly don't care who does it. But I do think it's an opportunity for this, be great for this committee. We've really been aiming at the low-hanging fruit, which turns out to be, even that's next to impossible in terms of dealing with the town, but at least that's what we're doing. There are other properties, certainly the Eastman property out by Old Wharf is the real plum, and that's not going to go for public housing. And if we could be involved with some of that, and maybe to look ahead at where some of those other properties are. Anyway, I'll stop there. Anybody else?
Other needs we're talking about?
so if you have any other thoughts, send me an email or call me.
And Fred, when is your appearance?
I'm
When is
not
your-
sure, but I think it's going to be in May. Talked to Mary Rogers. She thought it was, the meeting would probably be about the May 10th.
In like 2.5 weeks.
Okay, NRAB, John?
We had a brief meeting in early March, and we're having another one at the end or on Friday of this week. But most of the discussion at that meeting had to do with the harbor survey plan. That's going to be a article on the warrant, I think probably the fall one. And we've talked about this before. It's basically a redo of a study that was done back in the 70s, documenting the various fish populations, including shellfish and little fish and finfish and everything in the harbor. And John Reel also is looking at maybe expanding that to include water quality and how that would fit into a study. And so they're putting together a request for proposal to put out. Now, the issue on this is again monetary. We're asking for 65,000 to do it, and we've had some input from the Center for Coastal Studies that have done some background work in other places like Orleans and so forth. So it's a little bit of a question of how we're going to approach this, whether it will be asking for bonding or asking for a direct grant from the town, and whether the town will go for it. It's a little bit up in the air right now, and hopefully the town's finances will be a little more clear by the fall town meeting, and so there'll be more discussion. And then that's about it. So.
Okay, and the energy, GB's not here. Now, I haven't met, at least for the subcommittee with the 5-year plan and the survey. You guys, has there been any?
No, we haven't met in
We haven't met.
the last month or so.
A lot of traveling
And appointments,
And-
medical appointments, unfortunately.
So,
I did today enter the survey that we had amongst ourselves kind of looked at. I've entered it into SurveyMonkey. It's very, very long. But at least we have something that now the committee can take a look at, the planning committee, and we can decide how we want to go forth. The question would be, do we want to try to move ahead to have the survey available to either give out or advertise at the town meeting, which is coming up very, very quickly? And one of the questions is, if we simply had a handout that said there is a survey, go to this website, take this, here's the link, please give us your feedback, that would be one thing. But if we want to physically make copies of the survey available so that people could complete it offline as a convenience for people who don't like computers, we then need to have a typesetter, because as I think some of you may recall, the old survey, the printed version was scaled down so that it was just front and back, 2 pages. I mean, just a 1-page front and back survey, which would certainly reduce our printing costs, because if you just try to download a PDF of the SurveyMonkey, every survey would be about 26 pages long, primarily because they have 36-point type and a lot of space, and that we can't afford to print 5 26-page surveys, let alone,
Right.
And
50.
expect to get any of them back.
Exactly. So I think that will be something we can discuss with our 5-year planning group, is how quickly do we think we can, work to come to some resolution about the open space survey, whether we want to try to get something available in time for town meeting. And I was hoping that Lynn would put me in touch with the printer that they use, but it seems like that's not the person. So if anyone knows of anyone who can handle typesetting as well as printing,
We use a different printer for the trail guides from the one we use for the pocket.
Oh, okay.
That's because the
yeah.
pocket guy couldn't, I mean, the regular printer couldn't do the pockets.
Oh, okay,
Right.
okay,
That's how we ended up there.
okay.
it's
So,
50.
so if I can get that information from you, Lynn, offline, that would be really helpful.
Yeah,
The Survey Monkey, you really want to focus on online responses.
Oh, I know, but
Because we did that for the parking task force, and taking all of the sheets of paper, it was a monster. And you need to talk to town council about what you do with those records, because you can't destroy them until somebody tells you you can destroy them.
mhm.
So there are more reasons to do online than offline by far.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it certainly makes all of the data analysis certainly easier because you're not having to input all that information.
exactly.
But if we want more than, 25 people to respond, it would be nice to have some
You will-
options available.
You'll get very good participation online. I
You think
wouldn't
so?
worry about it. Oh, absolutely.
Well, that would be encouraging.
And the last survey that Open Space did had, I don't know, 200 responses with a very short turnaround time, and I'm not sure there was even any paper versions of that. So, and there were probably, I don't know, 20 plus questions. So
And
I
this was what survey, Denny, you're talking about?
Open Space.
Actually, there was a printed, I have a copy of it.
I know, I gave it to you.
Yeah, so I mean, no, there was a 2-page printed copy, so there was an offline version available.
Yeah, I'm
For
not
that.
sure who entered the data.
Yeah,
It might have been the assistant town administrator.
yeah,
But you'll get good participation online.
okay.
Certainly much easier.
Oh, definitely.
I wanted to mention that I told Peggy that I had a conversation with one of the select board applicants, Carboni, and she's working with the town of Truro, and she's actually helping them with their 5-year plan.
Oh.
And she just volunteered that information, but
Okay.
I thought that was interesting.
You getting paid for that?
I beg your pardon?
Is she getting paid for that, Lynn? Do you know, this is voluntary? Or?
I would think so. I think she's working.
She's the town planner. And
Yeah.
so yes, and she is getting paid for it, Bruce.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if she became our select person, that would be helpful.
Okay. Okay, I think the, titles, I haven't done anything, but I haven't forgotten them. Titles on the properties we need to do. And I think that's it, unless anyone has something else.
Just an afterthought about what Fred was talking about, our open space needs
Mhm.
for CPC. I'm not sure what the arrangements are for AmeriCorps, but could we pay someone like that to help us with keeping things, booklets and so forth? All of that information.
What we have to do is work with now Meredith and Hillary, because they have the Conscom has access to the American.
Okay.
We talked with them, Lynn. That's what, and like I said, I've really not been around. But they had agreed to work with our stuff, and that also, again, we're just helping Hillary and Meredith. We're helping Conscom by checking these properties ahead of time. Like Fred said with the tire and the TV, it's like they come in and this is a problem. So it's in their interest for us to have those books done. So I don't think,
Okay.
the town has, and it sounds like next year, same thing, that Denny's going to have halftime and the town will have half. Am I hearing that right, Denny?
We'll have half of what the town has, yes.
Right. So we
I
should have, we can have access now if we're gonna, in fact, I hope we do.
I can just say that the Health and Conservation Department is out flat still, and Hillary is taking vacations, and that leaves just Meredith in the department. And Meredith is a newbie, and she is doing things like inspecting septic tanks, and I kind of cringe at that, but because I'm not sure that Meredith's been trained in that area. So you got to work with them and be present.
Yeah, certainly with COVID and all, they have a lot going on. All right. Okay, anything else? Okay, move to adjourn.
So moved.
A
Second.
second.
All in favor? Anybody
Aye.
opposed? Thank you very much, guys.
Did she
Wow,
inspect
thank you.
that? Did
What's
she
that?
Inspect that septic tank that came up on the beach down there between.
Where was this one?
Oh,
the
between
ocean side.
Lookout Hollow and White Crest, and there's a septic tank that turned up that nobody knew existed. It's gonna cost 75 grand to get it out of there or something. It's in the Independence. Anyway. Well,
Has anyone seen the kind of monster dead carcass between LeCount and Marconi? Near LeCount?
I was wondering if it was the septic system that Tom just described.
It's a creature that looks like a dinosaur almost, except it's got webbed feet.
Really?
It's very much, being scavenged on by crows and things, but I can't figure, Jack and I couldn't figure out what it was.
like a whale or something, or?
Well, it's long and thin.
But it's not a fish.
Beg your pardon?
It's not a fish.
You said there's fur, right?
It had some fur, but it had big flipper type feet. So it's still,
Is it an otter? Is it a sea otter?
it's bigger than that, I think.
Oh,
Wow.
Long. The rib cage was about that long.
Doesn't have feet.
Had flipper type things, like big flippers.
I'm interested enough, I'm gonna go over and check it.
I was thinking the same thing.
okay, goodbye.
Okay.
Okay, thank you all.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.